The rumor is you have to go to jail to learn your history and your culture. My latest book is titled COVID 1619. If you think that COVID-19 is deadly, COVID 1619 is worse. It's longer, more systemic, and you're going to need more than a mask to prevent being affected by COVID 1619. So from Malcolm Little to Detroit Red, in prison he was converted to Malcolm X, and on his own he became El Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. Again, we could have a whole workshop just on the development of Malcolm Little. Obsession with respect, playing the race card, mother's overprotection. I would love to work with some of your parents who have sons, because if you've heard any of my workshops, I talk frequently about some mothers raise their daughters and love their sons. For homework, what are the classroom implications of educating a mama's boy? And then the last issue here is fatherlessness. Rumor has it in 1920, 90% of Black youth had their fathers in the home. In 1960, 80% of Black youth had their fathers in the home. Now the media tells us in 2020, only 28% of Black youth have their fathers actively involved in their children's lives. Is that true? Another homework assignment. Since you didn't give me 3 days, Dr. Green, I'm giving lots of homework. For homework, is it really 61%? Is it 28%? What percent of Black youth have their fathers actively involved in their children's lives? We'll skip over Tessa, teacher expectations, student achievement. I'm an advocate that expectations make the difference. That is not the race of the teacher. It's not the gender of the teacher. It's their expectations, their time on task, and the ability to bond with their students. And I like that because I don't see anywhere on the horizon anytime soon that we're going to increase the 2% of African-American male teachers, nor decrease the 83% white female teachers. And I'm doing everything I possibly can to empower white female teachers to make a difference. And one of those elements is increasing their expectations. Now, here we're looking at gender differences. And again, this is a day's workshop. Boys and girls are different. And many teachers in college were never given a workshop on male learning styles. If you know that boys have a shorter attention span, what should you do differently with your lesson plan? If you know that boys have a higher energy level, what should you allow more of in the classroom? If we know that girls mature faster than boys, there's almost a 3-year difference, K-12. And my wife says we never catch up, but definitely not K-12. What are the classroom implications for a slower maturation rate? Should we expect boys to learn how to read at the same time as we expect girls to read? Boys are less developed in terms of fine motor skills, less hearing ability, more aggressive, not as neat, less cooperative, influenced more by their peer group, less developed in verbal skills, less developed in timing and organizing tasks. Again, I regret this is a day's workshop in and of itself with regards to gender differences. We're going to skip over this slide on reading. Again, another day's workshop on the most important subject, the precursor for incarceration. And later on, I'm going to look at best books for boys, because we have a collection of books that inspires boys to love to read. What I respect most about my parents, besides introducing me to God, they gave me a love for reading, but they allowed me to read what I wanted to read, not read what they wanted me to read. Again, we could have a day's workshop on special education. What year was Brown versus Topeka? Did we have special education that year? Is special education the new form of tracking? Is it the new form of segregation? Why is it that boys, not just black boys, there's a 2-to-1 ratio of white boys to white girls in special education? Have we designed a female classroom for large numbers of male students? Again, I regret we could have a whole day's workshop just on special education. The same applies to this screen on suspension. And later on, we're going to look at some of these solutions, especially the Dr. King and Malcolm X classroom. Again, we're not going to spend time on this slide, dropout prevention, but I do want to emphasize, it's coming up in a few moments, the 9th grade academy. I mentioned earlier that black boys are not dropping out in 11th or 12th grade. They're dropping out in 9th grade, and one major reason for that is social promotion. They were promoted out of elementary school. They're in high school. They're 16 years of age with a 4th grade reading and math school. Do you know how embarrassing that is? All right, so without any further ado, now I will begin the workshop. It's 7:22 my time, so I guess we have about 23 minutes before we go to the Q&A. I believe the principal is the instructional leader, and we have a full day's workshop just on principal development. There are 2 types of principals, as you know, Dr. Green. We have the CEO that loves their office, and they spend the bulk of their time in their office pushing papers. But in high achieving schools, the principal is the instructional leader. And during the school day, they're walking the corridors, they're visiting classrooms, and they're monitoring teachers. Again, I'm rushing this. Let me move on to, in a high achieving school, another solution, a no excuse culture. They don't blame parental background, parental education, the number of parents. In high achieving schools, the teacher's lounge is an empowering place for teachers. In low achieving schools, the most negative room in the school is the teacher's lounge. In high achieving schools, they have a mission statement. And the mission statement we're promoting nationwide is this one. If the student has not learned, then the teacher has not taught. If the student has not learned, then the teacher has not taught. Until teachers buy into this mission statement, take ownership of the outcome of their students, we will continue to have this problem. The next solution is mandatory in-service training. Nothing hurts me more than to fly from Arizona to Maryland and the ineffective principal, the CEO of the building, has made the staff meeting voluntary. If the meeting is voluntary, I'm primarily speaking to the best staff members in the school. In order for us to change the culture of the school, the meeting needs to be mandatory. We also are recommending restorative justice. And if I had time, I would elaborate on these initials: unity, criticism, unity. We have found that the peer group, the children respect justice coming more from their peer group than they do from teachers. And we have found the peer group is harder on themselves than we are. At another time, we'll come back and look at it in more detail. Kozbach, I understand you had my friend Dr. Ron Walker and his staff with you recently. He gave an excellent presentation. Let's give it up. Let's give kudos to Kozba. My next solution is looping. Until we have more master teachers, I'm recommending that we loop with a master teacher. We have found research, Dr. Green, 2 consecutive years of an ineffective teacher could destroy a child for life. But the reverse of that, 2 consecutive years of a master teacher could produce a scholar. The next solution, serial teaching. Rather than the same teacher in looping, a serial teaching concept is where it's the same type of teacher, where we go from a 3rd grade master teacher, Mrs. Jones, to a 4th grade master teacher, Mr. Peterson. Same type of teacher, just a different teacher, same concept. The next solution is teacher collaboration. We have found research in Los Angeles, Sparks Middle School, they were in the lowest percentile before they introduced teacher collaboration. They introduced collaboration and went from 9% to 92% on test scores. Now the students are still black, they're still poor, the daddy's still missing in action, but the teachers are now working together as a team. The next solution, we need to increase the number of male teachers and teacher aides. I mentioned earlier, or maybe I did mention this, I mentioned that 83% of the teachers are white and female. What I did mention is that we're 17% of the students nationwide, but only 6% of the teachers are African American, and only 2%, and it's really 1.8%, are African American males. So we need to increase that number, and I understand that you're divided into 3 groups, and one group is specializing in what can be done to increase the number of male teachers. And one excellent way of correcting that problem is with the program Call Me Mister that was founded over 20 years ago in Clemson, South Carolina. I'm on the board of Call Me Mister. It's a great program. It's now on 20 campuses nationwide, including a couple campuses in Maryland. They give grants and scholarships to Black male students who want to major in education. They bring consultants like me in on a regular basis to encourage them and promote them. We need to also find ways to have a transition between Black males who are teacher aides and develop them to be teachers. The next solution is that we need to increase time on task. Don't think that every teacher in Maryland is given the same number of minutes of instruction. And if you lose 15 minutes a day times 5 days a week, that's 75 minutes. Multiplied by a school year of 36 weeks, that would give a teacher almost 3 extra weeks of additional time on task. My next solution is that in high achieving schools, they use the data to drive instruction. They don't use the race of the student, the parental background of the student, the number of parents. They use the test data, and they don't use the data for evaluation purposes. They use it for diagnostic purposes. Again, I really regret we're rushing this one. This is what I really like spending a lot of time on. There are 6 types of educators in Maryland: custodians, referral agents, missionaries, instructors, master teachers, and coaches. And Black boys see too few master teachers and coaches and too many custodians, referral agents, missionaries, and instructors. In terms of referral agents, research shows 20% of the teachers are making 80% of the referrals to special education and suspension. The problem may not be with Willie. It may be with Miss Ann, the referral agent. For homework, if any of you are actually still involved in schools, I'd like for you to write down the names of the staff persons